But to her shock, the priest was not moved by the charm she had used on her body. He rebuked Purity and screamed at her to get out of his office. The charm had failed. It did not work on Priest Tokene. Purity returned to her room devastated and embarrassed. She cried because she knew it was now over for her. She waited for Priest Tokene to come chase her out of the parish and expose her for what she tried to do in his office. But 2 weeks passed and she had not heard from him. Neither was any meeting held concerning her to address the issue. This left her confused and in a state of fear each day, as her days in the parish was now numbered. To make matters worse, inside the toilet one day, to her devastation, Purity realized that her tummy had begun to bulge out. She tried using a girdle and corset to hide her protruding belly, but soon it was no longer working as her belly grew larger and could no longer be hidden. Soon, the parish sisters noticed the enlarged belly of Purity. They immediately began pointing fingers at her. "You are pregnant," they exclaimed. The matter was quickly reported to the head priest. Purity was unable to face the man that once helped her when everyone rejected her. Unable to deal with the shame, she did something even worse, as the priest was summoned to come see her for himself at the female dormitory. He rushed down there, but when he got there, Purity pointed fingers at him, claiming that he was the one who impregnated her. She knew she was already a terrible person, so it was better she just finished it till the very end. She had hoped that if she blamed the head priest for the pregnancy, lying and stating that he had gotten her pregnant on the day she had met him drunk and intoxicated with alcohol inside his office, then she would be able to blackmail him if everyone at the convent believed her, so he would give her the money she wanted before she left the parish for good. Priest Tokene and everyone present was shocked by her accusation, but remembering that he was 100% sure that he did not touch Purity that night at his office, he stood his ground, claiming his innocence and pointing out Purity's lies. "If you are so sure that I am the one who impregnated you when I was drunk, which I know, I have never touched alcohol in my life, let us run a DNA test and see who the father of your child is. You tried to seduce me but you failed, and now you want to set me up. Simply because you can prove that we were alone at my office that night does not mean that I did anything with you, Purity," he said, disappointed and angered. That night, Purity realized that she did not think through the plan well. She had made a grave mistake. She forgot there was a thing called a DNA test that could prove that she had lied, even though she had planned to use the evidence that she was with Priest Tokene alone at his office that night against him. She was even going to use empty bottles of alcohol to buttress her point. Seeing now that that would no longer be possible and her plans had failed terribly, Purity took her things and ran from the parish that night before all her secrets would be out and they find out that she had been spreading HIV. Alone and defeated, she boarded a canoe back to her village. When she got to the banks of her village river, she entered the bush to change her clothes so that no one would see her, the pregnant nun. But as she was about to do so, a thief jumped out of the bushes and made his way with her luggage. Purity had no choice but to walk all the way to her home in her non-uniform with her heavy pregnant belly. Everyone stared at her in disgust and shock as they whispered to each other. Shame flooded Purity from head to toe as she walked by. On getting home, she met her mother Oreva, who to her surprise was happy to see her. She hugged and welcomed Tamara. "Your uncle is dead now. I have been looking for you, my child. Please forgive me." Her mother welcomed her back home and gave her food to eat. She began to take care of Tamara and the pregnancy. "Even don't you believe in your God anymore? That your God will save you," her mother said to her, and she consoled Tamara. "I will make up for all the pain my absence has caused you, my dear daughter." Soon, Tamara went into labor and gave birth to a baby boy. Her heart was filled with sadness as they walked back home from the hospital with the unwanted baby in her arms. With each passing day, as Tamara stared at the baby boy laying on her wooden bed, her hate and disgust for the child grew. Though the baby was beautiful and admired by all that saw him, to Tamara, whenever she looked at her baby, what she saw was the spitting image of the madman's face, a reminder of how she was defiled that fateful night. Every time she saw her baby, she was reminded of the virus running in her blood. She would pick up a knife, rushing to stab the child and end her torments. But luckily for the baby, her mother Oreva would stop her. This was going on for weeks as Tamara's mind had been messed up and the trauma she went through now controlled her thoughts and actions. Realizing that it would be impossible for her to end the child because her mother hid all the knives in the house away from her and was always watching over the baby, Tamara decided to try a different method to get rid of the child. One night, she carried the baby boy, walked deep into the bushes to the village pit latrine, and flinged the baby into it without a second thought. As she was leaving, she heard the continuous cry of her baby from the latrine as the baby went down into the darkness of the deep, deadly hole. For the first time in months, Tamara felt a heartbeat skip. The loud cries of her baby from behind was like a knife stabbing her chest. She melted and broke down, walking away with tears from her dying, suffocating baby. When she got back home that fateful night, she met someone, a familiar face, talking to her mother in the living room. It was the doctor from the convent. On seeing Tamara, the doctor quickly walked up to her. "I have been looking for you at the parish," she said. "I am so sorry. The result we gave to you was wrong. It belonged to a different patient that was brought in that same day. Your sample was mixed up. You are not the one with HIV. You were only pregnant." She said this to Tamara as she handed her original test results. Tamara looked at the test results with shaking hands. Immediately, she began to shout, "Mama, Mama, follow me. I just threw my baby into the latrine." She screamed, beckoning and awakening the entire sleeping village to come to her aid and save her baby. Her mother and the villagers ran along with her desperately. Her mother had no idea the baby was not sleeping inside her room that fateful night. When Tamara got to the latrine, it was completely dark inside. She cried and kept calling to her baby. "Please don't die. Please be alive. Help me somebody," she screamed. As the villagers gathered around the pit latrine, using lights, they found that the baby had been caught in a thick web inside the pit and he had not gotten to the bottom of the pit to suffocate into the feces. Using long sticks and spending long hours that night, they were able to successfully bring out the baby. "You are very lucky. That's God you are serving. Hold on to him tightly because he really loves you," the villagers said to Tamara. Tamara's tears flowed down from her eyes once again, but this time it was tears of joy. She carried her baby and went back home to her house. When she got home, she went on her knees, asking God for forgiveness for all she had done against God and against a fellow man in her time of weakness and trials. She understood now that God truly never abandons his own, and he was with her even when she walked through the fire according to his holy word. And from that day, Tamara began to love and care for her child. He became a source of joy and a reminder of God's mercy toward her. Tamara went back to being the daughter of God she once used to be. She began to preach the gospel to the villagers once again, doing the Lord's work diligently. One day, while she was preaching by the roadside far away, the madman from before came toward her. He stood and stared at her and would not leave. At first, Tamara wanted to run for her life before she gets pregnant again. But remembering what God's word told her, that she had dominion over all spirits, she stood her ground and did not budge. She noticed that the madman was calm and did not make any moves. He looked desperate, as though he was suffering and needed help. Tamara decided to walk away from him, remembering the pain he had inflicted upon her. But she also remembered that the word teaches to forgive even our worst enemies. So, even with the pain she felt so sharp inside her heart, she turned back and prayed for the madman, who surprisingly received the prayer calmly. "I have forgiven you," she said, before walking away from him. She went back home and hugged and played with her son, trusting God's will and plan for her life. 2.5 years later, a rich, wealthy stranger shows up in their village. He had been living in one of the village houses for a few weeks. He came one day and showed up in front of Tamara's house with lots of food and gifts. When he entered their house, he met Oreva. He introduced himself to Tamara's mother. His name was Arepamo. He told Tamara's mother he was looking for one preacher lady. The villager told him stayed in that house. Her name was Tamara. "Oh, you are talking about my daughter. She is inside her room. Don't worry. Sit and make yourself comfortable. I will call her for you." "Tamara, Tamara." "Yes, Mama," Tamara replied. "There is a man here looking for you. Please come outside." Tamara came out of her room and her mother introduced her to the stranger looking for her. The man said it was an honor to meet Tamara, that he had been looking for her for a while now. He said all the gifts outside was for her and her family. He narrated all that had happened with him. He told them that he was the once madman who wandered the outskirts of the village of Oke. Tamara was in shock. The man continued. He told them his little story as tears poured from his eyes. He narrated how he was born to a wealthy man back in the city of Lagos, but lost his mother at an early age. His father had taken a second wife before he died, and his stepmother, who had no child of her own, wanted to take all his father's inheritance for herself, and so she put something inside his drink to kill him. But as God will have it, he ran mad instead and did not die, and so he was chased out of his father's house. He began to wander far, far away from his home, and that was how he found himself lost in the village of Oke. But he recalled that one fateful day, a woman prayed for him, and he regained back his senses, and that was how he returned back to the city and reclaimed his rights and inheritance from his evil stepmother. Since then, he had been looking for the lady that prayed for him to bless her. He had to return back to the village of Oke to find her, just to tell her thank you. Tamara was looking at him in shock. When her son came out of the room, she immediately screamed at him to go back inside. She could not fathom all that she had just heard. The madman that defiled her was sitting right inside her house in front of her. The man dropped his gifts and went back home. Oreva did her best to console her daughter to take heart, but she had to tell Mr. Arepamo, the madman, the truth about what really he did to her. He probably does not remember what he had done to you. See, the power of your God in you has saved that man's life, and he has come to say thank you. Please, my daughter, let it go. Tell him about this child he has with you before he leaves finally for the city. But Tamara did not see it that way. She felt the pain stab her heart all over again. She told her mother that she would never reveal the truth and that the man can go forever. She would continue to serve her God and live with her son. After then, Mr. Arepamo continued visiting Tamara with even more gifts. He would have been happy to have such a blessing as her as a wife, but Tamara would always act cold toward him, as if she did not want him around. Her mother kept trying to change her mind concerning the father of her child. Can't you see that this might be the handwork of God to remove that stigma of giving birth out of wedlock from you by turning your abuser into your husband? Tamara replied, I don't need any husband. After some time, Arepamo was finally leaving for the city. Oreva tried to make her daughter change her mind and reveal the truth to him before the father of her child leaves for good. He is not returning back. Don't you want your child to grow up with a father? She asked her daughter angrily. But still, Tamara was adamant. Her mother decided to take things into her own hands. She made her way to Arepamo's house while he was still packing. She told him all that really had happened between him and her daughter and about the child they had together. On hearing this, Arepamo ran to Tamara's house. He went down on his knees and begged, crying. He never knew that was what he had done when he had lost his senses. With tears, Tamara forgave him and brought out their child. Arepamo hugged his son so tightly as he cried. Tamara narrated all she had suffered because of what had happened that night. They both cried together, but they thanked God for where they found themselves today. At least, God saved them from the horrible fate they had endured individually. Arepamo did not return back to the city. He spent time bonding with Tamara and their son. Soon, Tamara agreed to marry Arepamo, and they both moved to the city together with their son. That marked the end of all the suffering and struggles Tamara had ever endured in her lifetime. She was married to a man that loved and cherished her more than anything. She never lacked again. Her son was given the best life from his father, and she was no longer a single mother with a child born out of wedlock. The reproach had been taken away, and so Tamara went on to establish her own church doing the Lord's work, and her husband supported her ministry. She healed the sick and brokenhearted. She would oftentimes share her story with the people as a reminder that God is indeed faithful to his word, and if God could rewrite her story and turn her life around, saving her, her baby, and her husband, then there was no one that was beyond the saving power of God, and so they lived serving God diligently as devout Christians happily ever after. The lesson to be learned from this story is that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Sometimes it may not make any sense, but we should be assured that we have a God that knows how to make sense out of nonsense. No matter what the enemy throws at you, trust God to make all things beautiful in his time. Thank you so much for watching. Please share your experiences and thoughts on this story in the comments, like and share to others. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you on our next story.